All right, now I'm going to go over the first week of De Bello Gallico Canvas short answers, April 27th through 30th. And as you can see here, I mentioned earlier, as so few people were actually engaged with these, instead of doing two per section, I decided that I would, after the ones you see here, bring it down to only one per section so that there would not, one, be overwhelming, and two, not many people were engaging with it. But nevertheless, I've got them gathered all here, and let's start going over them now. And here we go. All right, so the first one is Bellum Gallicum 1.2. All the ones in books 1 through 7 are actually from the College Board, so you can get a sense of the sorts of things they write about or ask. Translating context, the word ditissimus, that would be very rich, most rich, if you would like. Based on your knowledge of Roman history, what was the usual length of time a consul? Everybody served 1 year. The only exception to that would be a censor, who serves for 18 months, but they're elected only once every 5 years. So a consul is once a year and only 1 year. Two of them are elected to serve that 1 year. Translate ut de finibus suis exerent and what kind of subjunctive clause it is. Let me go ahead and underline that. Fantastic. And so it says here in line 3, 1, 2, 3, that they go out from their own borders with all of their abundances. It's introduced by a commandy verb, a persuades, and so it's an indirect command. According to lines 3 through 4, what was Argetorix's goal? And that goal, obviously, as you can see here, is to be in charge of all of Gaul, to possess all Gaul in empire, to possess the empire of all of Gaul. Remember, the potiri is one of those verbs that takes either ablative or genitive objects, and so that's either the ablative object or the genitive object. The next one, it says, later in book 1, which Gallic chieftain intercedes on behalf of the Helvetians in order to support their migration. That's Dumnorix. If you can answer that, that's okay. Moving on to the second one. This one says, lines 1 through 2, what the Helvetians decide to do. 1 through 2, they decide to go out and to prepare. So they decided to get hold of, comparare, the things which pertained to the departure. So to get a bunch of junk. Identify the construction of ut supeteret. So let's go find that in lines 3 through 4. Ut supeteret, that's a purpose clause. So why did they do all of this junk? So that an abundance, a copia of grain would be available on the journey. So there's the, of course, answers there. According to lines 4 through 5, how much time do the Helvetians estimate it would take them to get ready? So 4 through 5, right here, it says a biennium, 2 years, a 2-year period. They thought, they led in their mind that a biennium was enough. What is the, or translate, ad horas conficiendas? That'd be for the purpose of these things, about to be completed, and the verb form, that is a gerundive. Gerundivs with an iv is an adjective. What is one reason Caesar gives later in the Bellum Gallicum for attacking the Helvetians? He didn't, of course, trust them. He thought that they would abuse the province, and so he needs to attack them and prevent them from making their migration. He remembered also the consul that they had defeated in a battle and enslaved the men. The next one says, answer the following questions. So 1, moribus cogorant, why was Argetorix forced to plead his case in chains? It says it right here, by their own customs. Most moris, in their own custom, he's compelled to plead from chains. That's just what they did in their culture. Lines 1 through 2, what was the specific punishment? The one condemned, condamnatum, the one damned, be cremated, that he be cremated in fire. They'd be burned at the stake. Name one group, only one, 2 through 4, that might help him escape. So starting with Argetorix, conduxit, there we are, all the way down to conduct, there it is. So you've got his familiam, his extended family. You got them, you've got the clientes, you've got the debtors, the obiretes, and any of those three could have been good. Could have been the Latin for. Translate ne causam dicaret, and what type of ne clause? That would be a negative purpose clause, lest he plead his case. He didn't want to, because he knew if he did, he would be found guilty. Lines 7 through 8, what was suspected about Argetorix's death? And write out the Latin to support your answer. So 7 through 8, it is here. There was suspicion that, here it is, he himself decided upon death for himself. There was a suicide, and that's the Latin. Later in Book 1, what is one and only one strategy that Caesar uses to prevent the migration of the Helvetians? Remember, he cuts down the bridge that was connecting it to Geneva, and so that would be a good one that you could have given there. He also used a delaying tactic and other sorts of things of that nature. So the next one we have here, moving on to Book 4. I just have a feeling I think Book 4 is going to be the book from which the passage of the De Bello Gallico is going to come. So, line 1, quo genere, is a reference to one of the two Latin words in the line. Translate those words. What type? And so that would be referring to the equitatu, that would be the cavalry, and the chariots, which type they were generally, plerumque, the type genere, they were accustomed to use in battles. And so therefore, type would be the type of fighting. Haus Casas is a reference to what in line 2? These reasons. Well, the reason is here. It is that they're in deep water. The reference to the difficulties that they're having. Lines 3 through 5, two actions soldiers had to do. Give the Latin that illustrates it. So 3 through 5 here, at the same time, they had to jump down. They had to take up a position in the water, and they had to fight pugnandum with the enemy. So those are the three there. Name two hindrances in those same lines that they give in the Latin that illustrates them. So the hindrances would be 1, it's unknown places; 2, their hands impeded; and 3, a heavy and large burden of weapons. So that's the things that make them problematic. Lines 5 through 6, name 3 ways in which the enemies had an advantage. So 5 here, cum, all the way down to incitare. Let's find out where that would be. Up there it is. So what advantages do they have? They're on dry land. All of their limbs, omnibus membris, unimpeded, most familiar locations. So they also had trained horses, and they were acting boldly, throwing their weapons boldly. So lots of advantages there. Line 7, what is different about the soldiers' behavior, and give the Latin which explains the reason for the behavior. So the behavior is that they were hesitating. There it is. And the reason for it, the reason it is here, would be this right here. Inexperienced completely of this type of fight. So this tells you that they were hesitating, not the same zeal and alacrity. And then the reason is that right there. They're inexperienced, imperiti particularly. Take a look in the next one. Here it is, 2 Latin words that are responsible for the action described by the maritimos, aestus maximus. So the great high tide, that would be the luna plena. That's the full moon. Longas naves are specifically what type of thing? They are the warships. And where else do they play a role in the Bellum Gallicum? That is in the transportation of the troops when, of course, they need to get back and the ships are battered in the storms. Lines 2 through 4, what are 2 ways the ships are stationed? So the 2 ways that 1, they are drug up on the dry land, and the other ways they were tied up at anchors, which are they. What are the forms administrandi and exiliandi in line 4? Those are both gerunds. They are nouns, the act of administrating, the act of helping. They do not modify anything, so they are not gerundives. 3 reasons for reliquiae ad navigantem inubiles, the rest useful for sailing. Well, 3 reasons are the following. Reason number 1, it is that 1, ships are broken. 2 is that more so, I suppose, the ropes lost, the anchors lost, and the equipment lost. So those are the 3 reasons. What does Caesar's phrase id quod necesse erat accidere play imply? 1, it implies that it is not a surprise to him, and 2, it implies that he foresaw it, a thing which was necessary to happen. Yeah, everybody in the whole army was kind of freaked out. It says right here, a perturbatio, a perturbation, a disturbance of the whole army was made. Well, that's natural. You would expect that. So Caesar is showing that 1, it's a natural occurrence, and 2, he'd expected it to happen. And then line 8, what is the reason is given for the phrase, grain had not been provided into the winter? Well, the reason is right here, because it was agreed for everybody that it was befitting to winter in Gaul. And so they weren't expecting to stay the winter in Britain, so they didn't bring any food. The last one of this section, and then after that, I'll be going over the book 6 from the last week, but keeping these videos short, all 4 of them. Here is the one that comes from chapters 32 to 35. This is 33. According to lines 1 through 2, what two things specifically causes foes of the charioteers to fret? And then one would be, of course, that the terror itself of the horses, they're terrified of the horses, and the noise of the wheels. Those are the two things. All right. According to line 223, what are 3 maneuvers of the charioteers? So here, 1, they insinuate or interweave their squadrons in between, or interweave between the squadrons of the cavalry. They jump down out of the chariots and they fight it out on foot. Lines 3 through 5, what potential problem do the charioteers anticipate and how do they avoid the problem? Well, one is that if they get in a tight spot in which they have to, get away real quick, they back the chariots in. Remember, they locate the chariots that if they were pressed, if they should be pressed, then they have a retreat. And then according to line 5 through 10, name 3 things remarkable about the charioteers fighting. 5 through 10, remember that they can control the horses on a big incline, that they are able to, in a short time, turn them, bend them. They run out onto the pole that attaches to the horses, and then they walk out on it, standing on that trailer hitch, and then they jump back in. So any of those would be the remarkable things. So that's the recording going over those short answers. Hope you have benefited in any way. And one more recording for the last one.